Hello, I'd like to talk to you people, you young people in the beautiful state of Himachal, one of our most beautiful states, about why, although it may seem that you are insulated from the worst effects of climate change up there, not like us down here in the plains, in the polluted areas like Mumbai, where I am, should also be concerned about climate change. The fact that you are holding this wonderful TED talk and inviting people to speak about the countdown of climate change shows how young people, how the youth of our country are concerned. And I'm really happy to be here today and to speak to you about my experiences with protection of nature, about pollution, the links between them, and what all of us can do, particularly the youth, because it is the youth who are going to be most impacted by the effects of climate change. While it's true that sea level rise is one of the major impacts of climate change, more likely to directly affect coastal cities like Mumbai, where I live, and pollution like air pollution and noise pollution seem more likely to be at their worst and most acute in the cities that we live in, like Mumbai and Delhi, and not up there in the Himachal. But it is also true that we don't live isolated from each other. We live in the same world together. And what we do in one area, what we do in Mumbai or Delhi, affects everyone. What is done in different parts of the world also affects the rest of the world. So climate change has been clearly one of the defining problems of our time, and COVID-19 has brought the effects of climate change and our way of interacting with nature, of destroying nature, more acutely to the everyday experience of many people who have never lived with nature. There are people in Mumbai who have never set foot on the earth, bare feet on the ground. And this is probably something which is not true in a place like Himachal, where you live in the Himalayas, in the abode of gods. But when I talk of air pollution, of noise pollution in our cities, it's also true that Mumbai and Delhi set aspirational standards because of the existence of Bollywood, because of many other things that we have here, which other people aspire to. And it's true also that in many of our countryside, in our beautiful rural areas, that these aspirations give rise to increased noise pollution, and that even people from the cities, when the laws become more stringent here, go to these beautiful areas and pollute them with their habits of creating noise and air pollution. So you are not exempt. During lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown, it was a really startling experience for many to realize that even from the plains of Haryana and Punjab, you could see the Himalayas. You didn't even have to be in Himachal Pradesh. But it's the plains of Himachal and other areas where stubble is burnt, where industry exists, that contributes to air pollution, which actually blocks those views in the long term. So it's not that these things are not connected, they are connected. When air pollution, I have worked on noise pollution since about 2002 in Mumbai, when I first started measuring noise, and people told me that Indians love noise, that we don't have a problem with noise, that these are Western ideas, that we should be concerned about noise, and that people who want to control noise are actually just spoilsports, or just people who don't understand the joy and exuberance of youth enjoying by making noise. This noise pollution has now been said by the World Health Organization and has been reiterated by medical studies in India to show that noise pollution is actually a health hazard, a very serious health hazard. And when I started work, there was no data at all. So the way I started work was to get a noise meter, which in those days you had to buy. Today it's available as a free download on your mobile phone. To get a noise meter, start measuring noise and telling people that this noise is harmful. And everyone laughed because they didn't think that what I was saying was right. They thought I was just a spoilsport. But finally, when they realized that yes, when people started calling in, when people started crying on the phone, when people started telling their stories of health effects on their health of noise, and each person saying that no, it's only me who's very sensitive, it's only me who feels the effect like this, everybody else is fine with it, that I realized, and they realized, that that me was actually everybody, because noise is a health hazard. Similarly, air pollution is a health hazard. It has taken from 2004 or even 2003 till now so many years of educating people to make noise pollution understood as a mainstream environmental hazard. Air pollution has not, although it's an equally serious hazard and more known worldwide internationally as a hazard because it exists in various forms everywhere, it is now recognized that India, apart from being one of the noisiest countries in the world, is also one of the most air polluted countries in the world. But we don't have the same level of awareness, we don't have the ability to measure air pollution. So this year, to prove that it can be done in the same way by engaging citizens, by asking them to complain, by calling in, by hearing their stories, I decided to take up the issue of firecrackers, already a very serious issue so far as noise pollution goes, but to also test firecrackers for their chemical content so that we would know, apart from the AQI data which is put out by the government, where they tell us the average level of air pollution in the city day by day at certain predefined spots, to put out the ability of citizens to engage with this data in a more meaningful manner, in a way where they feel that they are in control, as we did with noise pollution, and to ask them to document what kind of air pollution is happening near them in a citizen science program, to ask them to keep track, to take videos, to take photos of what is happening, why this air pollution is happening, what is the source of the pollution, and how it's affecting them in their daily lives. Whether it's a garbage dump burning near you, or whether it's just someone burning leaves, or whether it's the pollutants from firecrackers. So to set the example, I measured the data in my own house. I measured the data in a garbage dump in a surrounding area of Mumbai where plastic was burning. And I also measured this year the data of the chemical content of firecrackers, because when firecrackers explode, there's a chemical reaction and pollutants are released into the air. After I tested the first set of firecrackers, which were commonly available in the market, the government of Maharashtra banned crackers, and in fact they banned all crackers except what they called green crackers, supposedly less polluting crackers. And in fact some other governments, state governments, banned crackers altogether. But it was only in Mumbai where, after I did another test on green crackers, where we were able to prove that even green crackers contain extremely harmful toxic chemicals, including banned chemicals like barium nitrate, like aluminum oxides, like potassium oxides, which can seriously damage your health over the long term. And people of Mumbai, who had become used to following noise pollution norms, giving us the most quiet festival season, Ganpati, Eid-e-Milad, Dussehra, as well as Diwali this year, managed to do away with crackers to such a degree that we were the only city in the country where the cracker ban actually worked, even though we didn't have a complete cracker ban, and even though green crackers which are polluting were allowed by the state government, thanks to citizens. So I would like to tell you how you can be engaged, and this is true also of the other issue that I took up, sand mining. So I won't go into details of sand mining, except to say that people think that sand mining is something which is more rampant perhaps in a coastal area where there are beaches and creeks, or in an area which is fast developing near cities. Maybe in Himachal or in the Himalayas there will be less sand mining, but this isn't true either, because the Ganga and the Yamuna are both being completely ravaged by the bad effects of sand mining. And it is said that some of the floods in the Ganga, which devastated the whole area, happened because of sand mining, just like floods in Kerala devastated coast areas of Kerala. So the Himalayas are not exempt either. And it's also interesting that the Himalayas themselves have sand. And when I visited last year and I saw how the old village houses and things are being replaced by cement concrete, and the sand which used to be millions of years ago in the sea has risen up with the Himalayas. It forms wonderful white sand in the Himalayas. There are shells in the Himalayas. It's amazing how the sea and the highest mountains in the world are so closely interconnected, also in the way they are destroyed, because there is sand mining even in the Himalayas. I saw it. I saw the wonderful sand containing shells on the ground on which I was walking, being transformed into these concrete structures, being mixed up in the Himalayas, and I felt really sorry to see how even that area was being destroyed. I have heard stories of people who live in other parts of the Himalayas in Siliguri telling about garbage burning in those areas. I've seen plastic lying everywhere there, plastic burning in those areas. So no, maybe the Himalayas are not facing the complete brunt of it the way we are, but certainly you are facing it too. So what do? I think citizen science is the way forward. And when I say citizen science, I don't mean you have to leave everything and become a citizen scientist. I mean your involvement in whatever way you can. As a student, you will go forward in your careers, you will have different careers. Some of you may be scientists, maybe some will be environmentalists, but many will not be. You may choose to be technical experts, you may choose to be academicians, you may choose to be photographers, you may choose to be business people, you may be anything at all. But when you see something happening in front of you, document that something, find the ways to create data, to upload it, to create community in which it can be done. And the youth today are already doing that. They are participating in greater numbers than ever in programs, in teaching world leaders, in teaching politicians and bureaucrats how to go about saving the world, what are the effects of climate change, what they need to do. Sometimes it feels like these pleas are falling on deaf ears. But these pleas never fall on deaf ears, because ultimately it's the youth who are going to educate their parents. That happened in the instance of firecrackers, when children started telling their parents they don't want to use firecrackers. That was an integral part of the firecracker success story of Mumbai. And so I would like to tell you, whatever you may be doing, please take part, take that photograph, take that reading, find a way to measure noise, find a way to measure air pollution, find a way to find technical solutions to the problems you see. It's better to do something than not to do something. And it's better to do a little something than to wait until the day when you can do something huge. So don't wait, take action, forward that email, do whatever it takes, but please do something. And if you can do more, if you can contribute by creating the actual change in terms of technical expertise and creating business models, please do that. I really look forward to people being engaged with environment who do not identify as environmentalists, who just enjoy the beauty of the mountains they live in and the clean air and lack of noise pollution which surrounds them. Thank you very much.